So, when we've been denied by the motorcycle gatekeepers, where do all this good boys and girls end up going? For a ride, of course. Let's dive into it. Alright guys, welcome back to this episode of Rolling with T-Bone, as we are rolling out on the Joker again. You saw the clickbait, you know why you're here. If you are new here, welcome in. My name's T-Bone. I shoot motorcycle related content and any kind of content really. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed, I invite you to go take a look at some of my other videos and make sure that I'm right for you. And if you believe me to be, consider giving old T-Bone a subscribe. If you are old here, welcome back. A new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you are old here, like I said, welcome back. You know what's happening. Alright, so we are going to talk about a touchy subject. In fact, I've kind of held back on shooting this content here, but I ended up with just an absolutely gorgeous day. Real world, today is Thursday. And after tomorrow, our weather's going to be crap for the next several days, so I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do about content. But I knew I was riding today, so I figured I'd just grab the camera. And I've had this subject on my mind for a long time, actually. The motorcycle gatekeepers. Now, some people call them the Harley-Davidson gatekeepers. I just call them the motorcycle gatekeepers. When us good, greasy little piggies can't get past the gatekeepers, what do? We ride anyway. It don't matter. But the original motorcycle gatekeepers came from the end, of course, of World War II. They came home after fighting and still wanted to keep their machines going that they used to win the war with. And they started, their own little groups, motorcycle racing. They started learning how to take old parts and newer parts and keep old motorcycles running. They're the guys who mixed and matched and did their absolute best to make sure that their machines were always in top condition. So they're the original. They're the ones who built the gate. So I'm not talking about the gate builders. I'm actually talking about the gatekeepers. And where the gate builders would have been the old WLA flatheads and early knuckleheads, the gatekeepers would be knucklehead, panhead, shovelhead generation, or the baby boomers. But of course, each generation catches their own flack from the generation before, because the baby boomers caught, flack from them old graybeards from post-war time. And we have to look at the philosophy of the gatekeeper and what it is exactly I'm trying to say, because I do want this to come out a certain way. Now, the gatekeepers today, they would have been them guys who rode the panheads, the shovelheads, and some of them stuck to the knuckleheads as long as they could till they just were forced to change to the panhead. But those are the guys that tell you if your motorcycle doesn't have a Springer front end. if your motorcycle doesn't have a foot clutch and a jockey shift or a suicide shift. If your motorcycle is not just a kick only motorcycle with a hardtail, then you're not a true biker. I know. Yeah. Well, here's what we have learned from them old gatekeepers about those rigid tail, kick only, Springer front end, jockey shift. Which the jockey shift, the foot shift ain't that big of a deal now. Watch out, squirrel. But they told us that those bikes will absolutely beat you to death. And by the time, if you're lucky enough to live into your 60s and 70s, you'll be so crippled you can't stand up straight. Because they would take these old motorcycles that they would turn into these psychedelic choppers, and they would ride these things across 1950s and 60s America, where the roads weren't really roads. Not like we know roads to be today. And their backs got completely crushed. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, I was just talking away and I wasn't even getting anything recorded. But yeah, anyway, back to what I was saying. These guys would ride across, 1950s and 60s America on just these god-awful roads. And all those cool bikes that they built were just beating them to death. Now, if I'm a poser, and that's kind of what this is circling back to, was I was called a poser. So what this circles back to, if having a push-button starter, a hand clutch, and a soft tail makes me a poser, then the gatekeepers are never going to let me in. No matter the fact, guys, that I have added this up, not counting me sitting on my, and I may have already said this, I'm not sure, but I'm going to say it again. Not counting me being just a little kid sitting on my dad's, tank riding down the road. I have been on a motorcycle riding for 38 years. So none of the accidents that I've been through, none of the thousands of miles that I put down on motorcycles, none of the motorcycles that I have owned or currently own, if that don't make me a biker, then I will, in these old gatekeepers' eyes, forever be a poser. And I'm never going to be able to get in. I'm never going to be able to get in. But, I say all that to say this, because here's the story as to why I'm saying all this. We're going back probably 12 years now, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less. I was at the gas station, gassing up my bike, and at the time I had a Honda 900 CB 900 Custom. Now, those of you who are familiar know that these bikes were built in it was either 79, 80, and 81, or 80, 81, and 82. They were only produced for 3 years because they were a 10-speed bike. They had a 5 low range and then a 5 high range, essentially making them a 10-speed motorcycle. And, I had a fixed fairing on it, had put a nice satin black paint job on it with chrome trim. I had a nice old school sissy bar on it. I mean, it was a good looking motorcycle. I'm not going to lie. It was a beautiful motorcycle. And I loved that bike a lot, and I hated to have to get rid of it. At the time, I really didn't have no other option. I had to get rid of it. But anyway, I'm pumping gas, and this old school biker, one of the old graybeards, because he was up there, he had which it kind of caught me off guard. But he wasn't riding, of course, a chopper. He was riding one of them old grandpa bikes, what we used to call garbage barges. Today they call baggers. They were full dressers, and we always just called them garbage barges or grandpa bikes. Until I rode one, I understood the comfort behind the geezer glide. But, you know, he's got the big long gray beard, the Harley Davidson jacket on, got the Harley Davidson boots on, turns around after he sits down on his motorcycle, looks over at me and says, and I'm not lying, he called me a poser. Now, rather than letting me debate him about this, he hit the starter button on his geezer glide and away he went, feeling like he had saved the gates from another non-Harley Davidson rider. And you know, I went to Milkman after that happened, and he said, "What is wrong with you?" Because I was dumbfounded. And I told him what had happened, and he said, "Wow, okay." But you know, I laugh about it, but then it actually, in the beginning, it didn't make me mad. In the beginning, I just kind of wanted to know why he, you know, thought that. But I could get it. I wasn't riding a Harley, but I had a Honda with a fixed fairing, not the better fairing. It was the better looking fairing, a fixed fairing. You know, it wasn't a 1340, you know, Evo or 1340 shovelhead or a 1200 shovelhead. You know, I was riding a Honda. But, and at that time, I remember thinking, man, as long as I've been on motorcycles, and like I said, we're going back 10, 11 years ago, I had already been on motorcycles over 20 years. And I was thinking, geez, man, the gatekeepers are, you know, they're for real. They're not about to let us young whippersnappers with our non-Harley Davidson motorcycles come into their world. But, you know, it was just one of those things that it caught me off guard when it happened. But, you know, it brings into the gatekeepers, you know, listen, I can ride a foot clutch suicide shift, absolutely I can. I can ride a hardtail chopper. I'm on a couple of them actually. I can ride a kickstart motorcycle only. Do I want to? No. I like the modern convenience of having all the buttons and the bells and the whistles. I like my starter button. I like my hand clutch and my foot shifter. I like my soft tail suspension. But you know, here's the thing, guys. We get caught up in all this with the, well, you know what I'm talking about here, talking about the gatekeepers. I don't believe that there's any malice in their heart, and I don't believe they have any ill intentions toward us. I just think that these guys are just so set in their ways that, you know, they want everybody to believe what they're saying, and they want everybody to believe like they believe that what they're doing is cool. And hey, absolutely, those choppers and motorcycles are absolutely fantastic. I love the way they look. I love the way they sound. I love the way they ride. But do I want to have to kickstart a motorcycle all the time and maybe not get to go on a ride because I fouled a plug? No, I don't. I'm sorry. And like I said, if that makes me a poser, if that makes me uncool, then, you know, hey, doggone it, I guess I'll just have to be uncool. But I'll be uncool riding a 97 Dyna called Blue Moon. Or I'll be uncool riding a anniversary fat boy named Big Papa. Or I'll be uncool riding a 99 Dyna called Miss Kitty. Or I'll be uncool riding a bad boy custom chopper with a 100-inch RevTech on it. I'll be uncool riding this bike called the Joker. But, and again, like I said, I don't think it's malice. I don't think that they're, you know, trying to be mean. I just think that they come across a little aggressive. They come across a little too blunt sometimes. And I don't think they actually mean to do it. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I really don't think that they actually set out that day to be that way. Maybe some of them do. Maybe some of them do. Oh, good grief. What do I got going on here? I've got 3 dogs sitting in the middle of the road. Get out of the way, puppies. Oh, you're a pretty puppy. Hey, puppy. Oh, they're pretty. Pretty puppies. My pit bull mixes of some kind. Never said a word. Pretty puppies. Okay, what was I talking about? I got puppies. I got puppy distracted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The gatekeepers being set in their ways. They won't. You know. You know. They've reached that age where they know that, you know, they might not have a round trip ride around the country left on them. They may have aged out of that kind of ride. Guys. Don't that just beat the little mousy band? I had to stop and change GoPro batteries. Why do you do this to me, GoPro? All right. That's something I've noticed about the Joker. When you're riding the Joker, he don't like to stop. Second gear, the rear end broke loose right there. But I was in a straight line, so I was good. Okay, so before my battery petered out, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the gatekeepers. You know, I don't think they mean to be mean to us and to say hurtful things to us, and you know, to question our bikerhood. If we really truly are bikers, why don't we ride that special bike? You know, to me, guys, any motorcycle you ride is a special bike. Special to you. It don't have to be, you know, a $15,000-$20,000 motorcycle. If you're riding around on a $2,500 Honda that you bought off Facebook Marketplace and you're having the time of your life riding it, then that is a special motorcycle. So I guess in closing, guys, if I'm going to bring this video to an end, I would say to the gatekeepers, thank you for being just who you are. Thank you for being cool enough to possibly save motorcycling in the 80s when it could have just completely went away. You know, thank you for taking the bits and pieces from different motorcycles and making cool choppers and cool customs and putting, you know, those wild paint jobs on them. You know, guys like Ed Roth, Big Daddy Roth, and, you know, all of those guys from that era who was building just wild looking psychedelic motorcycles and having a lot of success at it, by the way. To the gatekeepers, thank you. Thank you for being as cool as you are. Because although sometimes you get to us, and although sometimes we don't understand what you're doing, you're still our gatekeepers. And the motorcycle culture owes a lot to you old iron butts that came back from World War II, that came back from Vietnam, who, you know, tested the waters of the motorcycle world and swim out in the deepest parts and build amazing machines. You know, that's, you know, gatekeepers of other cultures just aren't as cool as our gatekeepers in motorcycle culture. You know, and I think to say that the old culture of that kind of thinking is slowly dying out. It's slowly going away. You know, it kind of goes back to these other videos that I've been shooting here over the last couple of months about new riders and, you know, all that stuff. It kind of comes down to what Recycle Hooligan had said in one of my chats one night, and he commented on the video and he said, all inclusive, not exclusive. I think that is absolutely the best way to put it out there, because listen guys, when it comes to motorcycles, this is what I have learned. If I'm going to try to break down what I've learned about riding motorcycles in the 38 years that I've been riding motorcycles, is that if you get brand specific, if you get style specific, you're really doing yourself an injustice, because you're limiting yourself so much that you're not getting the full potential of being in the motorcycle culture, if that makes sense. But, you know, we got to think about the time that these old gatekeepers come from. It was absolutely a totally different world back then. Absolutely. There was, you know, there was a different way of living back then. There was a different way of surviving back then. And there was just flat out a different way of doing things. And even today, some of the Gen Z, you know, Gen X, millennials, even Gen Z now who are getting into motorcycling, there's always going to be an allure for a young man to go back and look at that foot clutch, that suicide shifter, that Springer front end or girder front end, that hardtail chopper with the king queen seat and the psychedelic paint job. That is always going to be attractive to a young man or woman getting into motorcycling for their first time. And, you know, the gatekeepers are the ones who made that culture possible, guys. And what I said a few minutes ago in the video about them keeping it going through the 80s, I think we forget sometimes that during the 80s, with Harley Davidson buying themselves back from AMF, motorcycle culture kind of declined there just for a little bit in the 80s in the cruiser world, because you had, you know, the Japanese market was getting wild here in America then, because you had Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Yamaha. All these companies were competing in the American market, and the chopper and the cruiser scene was kind of waning just a little bit. But again, like I said, people just came, you know, you can't stay away from those good looking bikes. That's why I go to a bike show. I love seeing those old school bikes. You know, like the 750, the CB 750 chopper that I had on a video a while back. That's at the AMR, you know. That's just a cool old psychedelic chopper, guys. That, You know, bare bones, no frills. Beautiful motorcycle. But you know, we have to thank those old gatekeepers, because without them, we may not have had none of that. But anyway, guys, to say thank you to the gatekeepers, I think that's where I'm going to drop this video off. I'm going to lay it down right here. My next video may actually, to go ahead and warn you now, may just be a talking head video. I may try to record while I'm in the truck or something, but where our weather is supposed to turn to absolute crap after today. Rain, high winds for the weekend, and Monday is like 13 degrees overnight, 9 degrees the next night with snow. So it may be just a little while before I can get back on the back of a bike, but I will be working on getting you content out. It may, like I said, it may just be talking head. I have been flirting with the idea of going live. I'm just not sure how I would work that out right now, but I've got ideas about that. But anyway, guys, there it is. Your old gray-haired biker friend that is a gatekeeper. Hey, tell that guy thank you for making our culture that much cooler than it already was. But guys, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell doodad so you'll know every time we'll Rolling with T-Bone throw something crazy out here on YouTube. And guys, until the next time, I'm T-Bone. This has been Rolling with T-Bone. Y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and hey, thanks for watching.